What's good, everybody? Welcome back to another video. So today's video I wanted to make a little different, and I wanted to talk about astrology. And the reason being is because I feel like a lot of people don't fully understand it, and a lot of people don't believe in it. So this video is actually for the people who don't believe in astrology or don't particularly like it or think that there's any real substance behind it. This is going to be my attempt to help you try to understand it better and just show you a different perspective. And if you still at the end you're like, not really fucking with it, not for me, that's all cool. But I thought I would at least present a different perspective, my perspective on astrology. So what I wanted to talk to you about today is your natal chart. So right off the bat, if you are new to astrology and you don't know much about it and you just know your sun sign, which is the sign that everyone knows, if you haven't read your birth chart, I recommend doing that, and there is free ways to do it. So I'm going to go ahead and link in the description a website that I like to read birth charts on. Basically, you just put in your info, you put in your birthday, you put in the exact time you were born. So you are going to need your birth certificate if you don't have that memorized, or you could ask your mom if she knows. But you do need the exact time you were born, and the hospital and like the exact location, and you put all that information in, and then it'll bring you your birth chart. And basically your birth chart is how all of the stars were aligned for you when you were born, basically, and it kind of describes your personality. And it's really long, it gets really in depth, and I highly recommend that everybody reads their birth chart, just because it's so much more in depth than the one sign that everybody always talks about. And I also wanted to talk about a little something different as well. So when you are reading your astrology birth chart, you will realize that there is basically three signs that really represent you. There is the sun sign, which is the sign that we all know of, and that is the one that everybody talks about. It's the one that changes every month. When people ask you your sign, that's usually what they're asking. There is a moon sign, and your moon sign is another big important one, along with your rising sign. So these are usually called like the top three, or the three most important signs for each individual. And these three different signs, your sun, your moon, and your rising, make up a big chunk of like your personality, I would say. It's like it really kind of stamps who you are, because the other planets, they touch on other things, but that gives you a pretty good idea of the type of person that you are. And it also explains kind of how you're going to experience life, if that makes sense. So I kind of wanted to talk about these big three to kind of help you guys understand, and maybe show you guys why those of you who don't really believe in astrology, or think that it doesn't make sense, or you don't really agree with your sun sign because you've read about it and you're like, nah, that doesn't really sound like me. I want to explain why that could be happening and why it could still be accurate if you gave it a chance and read your birth chart. So we'll start with the sun sign, because that's the one that we are all familiar with. So if I could just go ahead and break up your sun sign into like some keywords, okay, right off the bat, I would use the words identity, ego, life force, your core, that sort of vibe. It kind of is just the real center of who you are. So it is like the most radiant force in your birth chart. It is the stronger, like the big part of you, I guess. Okay, so it's no kidding that, like, when people ask, what sign, they're usually referring to your sun sign, because it can be very telling. But it is a lot deeper than that. So let's talk about your moon sign. So your moon sign, if we were to break that into some keywords, I would use the words your soul, your emotions, your feelings, your sort of inner world. It's that whole piece of people that you don't really show. This is kind of a lot of stuff that goes on internally. People won't really be able to pick up on it unless you're very close with them, in very close relationships. You start to see the moon sign come out. But if you're just talking to people on the street and stuff, you're probably not going to see their moon sign at all, because it's just doesn't appear to you. It's just, you're not in their brain. You're not going to know what's going through their head. You're not going to be feeling their emotions. You have your own emotion. It's more of like a hidden sign. It's kind of tucked away. That's why it's called the moon sign. It's more dark. The sun is over here. It's very bright. It's very, ooh, I'm the sun, I'm over here. And the moon sign is kind of, it's a little more darker. It's a little more in the night. It's a little more hidden in people. And the moon sign is cool because the moon sign gives you, it kind of talks about how you process things, how you process your feelings and emotions. And depending on what moon sign you have, will change how you deal with that. So just like with the sun sign, how there's the 12 different signs and all that, if you have your moon sign is the same way. So you'll either have a moon in like Leo, all 12, it can be in any of those signs. And depending on what sign it is in, dictates how you're going to deal with your emotions and stuff like that. So if you don't really resonate too much with your sun sign, it could be because you are resonating with your moon sign, because to you, that's how you deal with your emotions and stuff. So when you read stuff about sun signs, you're like, that doesn't really resonate with me, because deep down inside, you're feeling like this completely other sign. You know what I mean? Which you wouldn't know if you didn't read your chart, which is kind of why I'm sharing it with you guys, to show you that it is a little more in-depth than that. The next one that I want to talk about is the rising sign. And now this one is a very interesting one. The reason being is because this is how people perceive you. This is your sort of mask, your sort of social personality, your style, how you choose to present yourself to people. And this is really interesting because a lot of people, they'll like try to guess somebody's sign, okay? And the thing about that is, good luck guessing their sun sign, because you don't really know them as a sun sign. You're going to be viewing them as their rising sign, because their rising sign is how they come off to people. So for example, let's say you have a very like shy sign, or me, for example. I'm a great example of this actually, because my sun sign is a Virgo. So if you know anything about Virgos, I mean, we're kind of weird. We're just like kind of shy. We're like these little nerdy people, kind of. That's just kind of how we are, okay? My rising sign though is an Aries. And if you know anything about Aries, they're like, brah, like it's just an Aries. Like, I don't even know how to explain it. They're there. You're in the presence of an Aries. It's a very big energy. So it's really funny because people who don't really know me, or people who are watching me down like on the street, or just meeting me for the first time, are going to view me as an Aries. That's how I come off to them. Meanwhile, in my brain, I'm over here a Virgo. So I'm over here all weird in my brain, but they're picking up on me as if I'm some Aries. So it gets very weird, because it's like, you don't really know what someone's sign is. You only know how their rising sign is presenting them to you. Once you get to know them better, you can you'll start to see their sun sign and stuff. But right off the bat, if you're trying to guess somebody's sign, try to guess their rising sign, because that is probably the only thing you'll be able to guess with as little information as you have about them. That's why I think the rising sign is cool, is because it kind of shows how the world perceives you. And I highly recommend you guys go ahead and read your rising sign, because it'll show how other people perceive you. And it's interesting because obviously you can't perceive yourself because you are yourself. So it's interesting to see how other people perceive you. Like when you walk in the room, what type of energy you bring into the room, that sort of vibe. That is all explained in your rising sign. And so those are the big three. You got the sun sign, the moon sign, and the rising sign. And those big three right there kind of make up who you are and on a day-to-day basis. And the rising sign is also very important, because if I'm reading like a daily horoscope, I actually read my rising sign as well. I don't just read the Virgo sign. So I'm a Virgo, and I don't just read the Virgo horoscope. If I'm reading like a daily horoscope, I actually read my Virgo and my Aries, and the Aries one, because my rising sign is an Aries. And I actually tend to usually, the Aries one actually tends to be more relevant in my life, which, if you don't know your rising sign, you could be reading your sun sign and being like, these horoscopes make no sense to me. This has nothing to do with what's going on. And it's because you're actually reading the wrong one. You should be reading your rising sign. And a lot of people don't do that. I read both of them because they're both important. But on a day-to-day basis, I've realized that the rising sign is actually more influential on what's going on in my life on a day-to-day basis. So that is something that you might want to keep in mind. If you are reading your horoscopes, your daily horoscopes, don't just read the sun sign, also read the rising one, because they both have information that can help you. But yeah, I just wanted to make a quick video and kind of break down my whole view on astrology, kind of explain the sun, the moon, and the rising signs, because they are the three most important ones. And for those of you who don't really agree with astrology or think that it's kind of stupid, just hear me out and go read your birth chart. Read it, and I'm telling you, you'll probably be mind blown, because I didn't really believe in astrology too much either until I read my birth chart. And once I read it, I was like, okay, this is kind of weird. Okay, this is kind of weird. It's, at least for me, my experience was accurate. Okay, and I just wanted to share that with you, because maybe you'll go read your birth chart and you'll be like, wow, this is actually kind of crazy. I wasn't expecting it to be that accurate. So that's just kind of what I wanted to talk about today. Like I said, the link for a free natal chart will be in the description on a website that I really like to use. They didn't like promote me or anything to tell them to use their link. It's just actually one that I'd recommend to you guys. It's completely free and it'll tell you everything that you need to know about yourself. So if I recommend checking that out, and let me know what you guys think. If it changes your mind, if it doesn't, if you still don't really believe in it, I'd love to hear how you guys are vibing with your natal chart. So yeah, thanks for watching, and I will catch you guys in the next video. Peace and love.